Hello, it's Sparkles of Gold. Today's video really has to do with Mars and Capricorn, to be honest. Why is that? Well, we know a lot about what's happened with Venus in Capricorn and the Venus retrograde that has happened. Recently, Venus has stopped going backwards and stationed and is moving forwards very slowly this week. We know about this transit since all the way back in the end of 2021, and its relationship with Pluto and with Mercury. And Mars, being in Capricorn, loves being there. Astrologically, on paper, it's one of the best places for Mars to be and to do Mars work. And I would agree. I'm agreeing with that. But I also have some deeper insights about this particular Mars and Capricorn transit that's happening right now. I'm going to rattle off a couple dates here on this video, and then I'm going to tell you my personal opinion about why you should be sensitive and watch out for this Mars and Capricorn transit. This might not work for everybody, but it's something that you should be aware of depending on what relationship to Mars is in your life, in your chart, so on and so forth. So we just, in the last 24 hours, had Mars trine the moon. And as I'm making this video, it's late February 1st, early February 2nd. And the next, I think, major aspect that Mars and Capricorn is going to make is pretty much it's exact on February 6th. Might start to feel this one, day before, and it's Mars squaring Chiron in Aries. And I'm some people might not be into Chiron, but I am. And I think when there's a Mars a quick moving transit like this, Chiron in Aries has been a theme in a lot of ways in the last 4 to 5 months. With it being involved in aspects, cardinal aspects, and so on and so forth. And I think Mars here, touching up, squaring Chiron, brings and shows a wound. Just Chiron does that anyway in the Aries part of your chart, but it rubs the wound, it touches the bruise, it messes with it, it exposes it again, or it might peel off the scab metaphorically. And Mars in Capricorn, in general, is a type of placement where one could get things done and move forward strategically, step by step, be strong and steady in that type of way, and is goal oriented. It is all about getting goals done and achievements done, and that's great. But if it's pushing and squaring Chiron, this is where that wound and bruising and an owie it can be pushed upon, and it's something to be aware of. I'll talk a little bit more about certain things like this with Mars in a second here. A couple days later, Mars is going to sextile Jupiter, and this is an awesome aspect. I mean, Mars and Capricorn wanting to get things done and to plod methodically and achieve, and then having a nice pure conduit with Jupiter and Pisces, and where there's inspirations, things that are otherworldly, the creativity connected with that, along with the Mars can do and we're going to get it done type of thing, is a great aspect in this Mars story. At the same time, we have Mars trining Uranus in Taurus, and so you could see here you have some creativity and some ingenuity with Uranus and Taurus, and then Mars wanting to keep pushing and building and achieving and getting and doing, and the type of building that is laying foundations for something long term. You could see how interesting this day is, and I think you could take advantage and get clues to where Capricorn is in your chart and applying to the Pisces part of your chart with Mars sextile Jupiter, and then the Mars trining Uranus and Taurus, the Taurus part of your chart. So there's a lot of action going on there, and it's a good feeling too, considering we've had a lot of retrograde happenings in the last so many months. While I make this video, Mercury's going to finally go forward in a couple days. So then there's a lot of movement finally. And that day in particular, or the day right before that day when it's exact and a little bit after, you could take advantage of something like that. Now, I'm going to stop right here because what this video really is about is I think what could happen with Mars in Capricorn when it crosses boundaries and when it over applies itself and loses control, which is interesting because Mars in Capricorn is the ultimate control. You can see what I'm saying here. It's one thing about having control with what you're doing and staying in your own lane. It's a whole other thing then when you start to relate to something, yourself, someone's, the outside world. And the reason why I'm saying this is pretty much all this month into March, Mars is going to be conjunct Venus in Capricorn and applying itself to Capricorn, almost trying to overtake Venus in Capricorn. And considering what's happened in the last so many months with Venus in Capricorn and the transit that's happened with the retrograde, it's Venus's relations to Pluto, two conjunctions. We have another one coming up. It's relation to Mercury. There's a lot of things that have been unearthed in relationships and also with resources and money and value and pretty much self-worth and value and how you function with yourself in the world and it can show itself in relationships. And so much has happened in the last several months with this story, and then you have Mars in Capricorn who's just gung-ho to get things done, applying itself to Venus. Now, you have the same old, deepest, oldest story in our history, which is Mars and Venus and how they get along with each other. Is it love or is it hate? Is it peace or war? What is it? And I think in this case, considering Mars on paper does well in Capricorn and makes many interesting aspects in February into March, I am of the opinion that if you have certain narrative with Mars in general in your chart or in your life or outside of you, I think power, struggle, and control and manipulation can happen here. And Mars will do anything that it can in Capricorn to get it done. And if it's coming from a dark ego place and is blinded by something else that has nothing to do with harmony and love, then severe amounts of manipulation could happen. And there's a complete natural imbalance. In general, we all want to be in love, in a place of love, like standing in a place of love and harmony and feeling that, having that, living that. Now, if boundaries are crossed, the environments are out of whack because of it. If Mars and Venus aren't trying to get along, the spaces are out of whack. Mars will then try to dominate and will dominate. And this is what I am telling you all to watch out for. Because Mars can get carried away, even though in the Capricorn too. You get carried away and basically disrespect the space that it's in and dishonor it. If Mars is in Capricorn is being smart about what it wants and what it does, it will work with Venus and find a way to harmonize with Venus, and Venus will too with Mars. So then there's no games played. But as we all know, depending on the chart or the person, the situation, one's shadow, especially with what happened during the Venus retrograde transit. And I did a video on this. You can go to my website or go look and click on it. Maybe I'll put the video up on the card. I wrote a newsletter about false power in the Venus in Capricorn retrograde transit and what happens when it's kind of, in a sense, metaphorically gone into the underworld and its application to Pluto and the power struggles that happen there within oneself or in relationships. But what I meant by false power is hanging on to something that feels so powerful, invigorating, that got you through certain points of your life and relationships, but that don't anymore, and that if holding you back and in actuality poisonous. to yourself and then to possibly others. And that one has to confront themselves and look at something like that and be real about that and work on it and let go of that false power in their life. Now here comes Mars in Capricorn. Depending on the person, depending on the chart, with Venus, here comes Mars. It's a test. Has one looked at the way they apply themselves, that false power I mentioned that they was carrying, that hopefully one has started to recognize and then purge once now Venus has come out of its retrograde cycle and starts to move forward? Is it renewed? Is the remnants of the poison still around? Is it all poison? Well, to me, Mars in Capricorn will expose something like that. And so I want you to be aware and be smart in your actions. And if you notice Mars and Capricorn types of actions in its relation to Venus in these transits the next 5 to 6 weeks, if it's about tearing down something, if it's about manipulation and overpowering and disrespecting space, disrespecting Venus, or both just fighting. It doesn't have to be that way. And so it's something I want you to be aware of, and so to be smart and not to tear down things that don't need to be tear down or disrespecting something that could be actually potentially strong and viable for the future. This is all about relationships. In the end, I think love requires respect and being honorable. And even when there's difference, being honorable and relating to each other. And I think Venus actually has the answer here. And I think Mars has to come to a place step by step and come to an agreement with Venus. And Venus comes to agreement with Mars. And there's a negotiation involved. And I'm saying these words, agreement, negotiation, because we're dealing with Capricorn. All this happened in Capricorn. So I think once certain things get established, I think the heavy lifting and the work to push something positive forward could be is Mars in Capricorn. But, if not, power, manipulation, lies, overpowering. If you see this, know this about yourself or something, or on the outside of you, just pay attention to that. I think in the end, if something like that is going on, not only does it hurt other people, but in the end, if one is coming from that place of the manipulation and disrespect, they will find themselves holding profound loss, profound damage. And in the end, I don't think anybody wants to sit in that type of place of resentment, anger, guilt, because of trying to get their way or not seeing the whole picture with Mars and Venus. Eventually, Mars conjunct Venus on February 16th. That's pretty much the whole week. You have this thing going on, the conjunct. The week after, like the 23rd, you have Mars sextile Neptune. I think another place of healing here, if one were to go step by step. Neptune does bring the illusion. Neptune does bring the fog. But I think at this point, Mars and Capricorn could be softened a little bit by Neptune and its application of how to get certain things done. When we get to the first week of March, there's a huge day that week. It's March 2nd, and that's when Mars conjuncts Pluto and Capricorn. And I think here, to what I've said earlier about my opinion about this Mars and Capricorn transit, is where the true test lies. Have you been real? Have you stood with integrity? It's a huge word here, it's integrity and all this. Has the work of Mars and Venus transits the last so many months, what is it in your Capricorn part of your chart and in the Mars parts of your chart and in the Venus parts of your chart? That's a lot. That's almost the whole chart. So has one been real and looked at themselves and purged and let go of that false power and has made the steps and the application to changing things into growing, and into evolving. And it doesn't have to be perfect. But with Mars conjuncting Pluto here, this is where there is a sort of, it's not a Saturn judgment type of thing, but I think it's a thing of like where the poison can once again be exposed if it's there. And I would not want to be in the position, in the place of not being real and honest with myself about what these transits have been to the Capricorn part of my chart, or, just for instance, I'm just saying it that way, or anybody else, and the application to Venus and to Pluto. This can be an amazing, transformative, forward evolving moment with this story. So you're listening to this right now before that. So ask yourself, have you been straight up with the Venus retrograde transit in Capricorn? Have you been straight up of how Mars in Capricorn is being used in your life, or how you've been applying it? Has it come from an integral place, an honorable place, a respectful place? And please hear that and let that sink in. Because in the end, as I always end my videos and my newsletters, or I'm going to, it all has to do with something we all ultimately want. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to feel love, and we want to come from a place of love, and we want to love. And if you want it, and you want to stand in that, it takes work, and it takes a truth, looking at yourself and being real, and then being real with others, those that you love, and having compassion for yourself and for them. And that is where transits like this can be utterly amazing and transformative. So that's my video today. Be real here and go step by step this month. I know a lot of people want to move forward and fast after the last year, but I'm just saying, be chill and be real, and remember, come from your heart, from that heart place. Anyway, this is Sparkles of Gold. Appreciate you watching. Hit the subscribe button if you made it this far. Hit the thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.